builder's risk optional coverages through the Victor O. Schinner Builder's Risk Program. My name is Donna Berry, and I will be one of your coverages that are built into the form can be increased or customized based on the specific client's needs. So I didn't want to overlook those and not let you know that some of the options that you have available. So wanted to also share some information about automatic coverages. So we're going to talk about automatic coverages, go through optional coverages, and then we will open the line for questions towards the end of today's session. So throughout today's session, I do encourage you to use the chat box that is in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. So feel free to enter in a comment or a question or anything that you'd like to share with the group, and we will open the lines a little bit later to share those comments. So, but I'm so glad that you're here. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to hear about our Builder's Risk Program, and hopefully we can partner together and have some success with our Builder's Risk Program. So let's go ahead and get started. First, I'd like to highlight that we have 16 automatic coverages built into our coverage form. So this table here provides a list of all of the coverages and all of the automatic sublimits. So you will see that many of these coverages will meet the need for your clients. And if you need higher limits, those are available, or if they're not available, we can talk about some different options for you. So we are very proud of our coverage form, having these 16 automatic coverages, and we're going to talk about just a few that I like to highlight that are a little unique in our offering, being part of our base coverage form. So the main reason we're here today is to talk about our optional coverages, and we do have plenty of options so that you can customize the policies to be the best fit for your client. So we have the Green Builder endorsement, contract change order endorsement, delay in completion, so that's business income or loss of rents. We have that endorsement available for those commercial projects. Permission to occupy, we're going to take just a second to talk about that. And then testing coverage. So when I sat down to create today's presentation, I thought of the coverages that I get the most questions on, and this right here is what makes up my day, is talking about these coverages and customizing the submissions and the quotes to be the best fit for your client. And we have a lot of flexibility in our form, in our terms, and our rating. So wanted to just talk in a little detail about these coverages so that everyone can have a good comfort level of discussing it with your client. So we're not going to talk about all 16 automatic coverages. So that table that I showed you before is what is automatically included for both residential and commercial in both new and remodeling. So our form is the same no matter the type of project that it is. So those 16 coverages are built in to the base rate. So when you receive the quote, you can have comfort knowing that those 16 coverages are included. So wanted to just pick out a few to talk about, but when we open the lines, we can easily talk about all 16 or one that you have a specific question on, or we can meet offline after this session. So something that comes up quite a bit is the question on valuable papers. What is the valuable paper coverage, and are valuable papers included in our form? So the answer is yes. We do have coverage built in for valuable papers. So that would be any written document or manuscript or record that needs to be replaced because of a covered loss. So you do need to keep in mind all of these coverages that we're going to talk about, they respond when there was a covered cause of loss to the property under construction. So can't stress that enough, that these come into play after the loss. So valuable papers are included. We include $20,000 for the coverage limit, and this includes the cost to research, replace, or restore the lost information on valuable papers and records for which duplicates do not exist. So this is an important item that questions do arise about valuable papers, about plans, about different documents that may have been on the job site that have been misplaced or destroyed because of a covered cause of loss. So just wanted to highlight this one because it is a very good coverage, and the sublimit's at $20,000, and that can be increased. If this is a larger project and you think the exposure might be a little higher, this is something that we can talk about. Pollutant cleanup and removal, we do have this included in our base coverage form. So what we're talking about are the coverages that are automatically included at no additional premium. So the pollutant cleanup and removal, it is automatically included, and it pays expenses to extract pollutants from land or water at the property under construction if the discharge or release was because of a covered cause of loss. So this can include any solid or liquids or gas, any contaminant, including smoke or soot or fumes. Those items that need to be cleaned up and removed after a loss are included in our form, and the limit is $15,000. So that's automatically included at $15,000, and the coverage can be increased. So something that we can customize if you think that there's a need or they have higher exposure for this coverage to be increased. Would love to talk to you about it. Something that comes up quite a bit is ordinance or law, and wanted to just highlight a few things about ordinance or law. And these are any type of zoning or land requirements at the property under construction. So if there is a change in the zoning or land use requirements and they're enforced at the time of loss, and that could cause, an undamaged portion of the building due to this change in the law, that undamaged portion doesn't meet the requirement that's in place at the time of the loss, this is where the coverage would respond. So there's three different portions of this coverage. There's the coverage for loss to the undamaged portion of the building. There's the demolition cost of the undamaged portion or the building, and the increased cost of construction coverage. So if there is, this is new construction or even with remodeling, this can respond. If there is a loss and at the time there's a change in the zoning or land use requirements, that could cause the need to remove a portion of the building that may not have been affected by the loss. It does not meet the new zoning requirements or the land use requirements. This is where the coverage would respond. So most likely with new construction, we know that the timeline is, 6 months or 9 months or even a year. The likelihood of the zoning and the land use requirements changing in that short amount of time is very unlikely, but it could happen. So this coverage is built in to give that comfort of knowing that there is a coverage if there is a need after a covered loss. So if there's a covered loss and part of the building is undamaged from the loss, but it doesn't meet the zoning requirements at the time of rebuilding, then this coverage would respond to that. So anytime there's a loss in value of the undamaged portion of the building as a consequence of a requirement to comply with an ordinance or law, so if it needs to be removed or repaired or brought up to code, this coverage would respond. So we do get some questions about this, and we do have $100,000 built into our form, and with, we feel that that is a very competitive limit for this coverage, but if you have a need for it to be higher or you're comparing us to another market, I will be happy to talk to you about any specific limits that you have or any questions that you have about ordinance or law. Expediting expenses. Now this is something where our form stands out. We automatically include expediting expenses. So if there has been a loss and you have incurred expenses to bring the work back up to the expected timeline. So you need to speed up the work because of the loss. So these are reasonable expenses, And these could include if you have to pay, if the builder has to pay or the client has to pay, overtime, shift change for night work, working on holidays, or getting the materials there by express freight. Anything that is within reason and it's incurred solely to expedite the repair or reconstruction of the covered property, there is a $50,000 limit built into our coverage form. So this really comes in handy if there is a covered cause of loss and there was lost time on the job site, and now to make sure that you meet your deadline and you need to expedite the work, there are some additional expenses with that when you are paying additional salaries for overtime or night work. So this coverage would respond then. So our base rate automatically includes this coverage for a $50,000 sublimit, and it can be increased if needed. So property at temporary storage and in transit. So I lump these two together, even though they are two separate coverages. But usually when I get a submission and they're asking for one to be increased, they're asking for the other to be increased. So I thought I would just include these together. So it is two separate coverages on our coverage form. And temporary storage, just what it sounds like, it is for a loss while the materials are being temporarily stored at another location, and then the materials must be specified or allocated for that specific property under construction. So I get that question quite a bit. So if it's a builder and he's building 10 homes, he needs to make sure that those windows that he's storing or the materials that he's storing, those are already allocated to a specific location. And then if there happened to be a loss of that temporary storage location, we know that those materials were going into that structure, so there would be coverage and the form would respond. While in transit, the same thing. So it would be a loss while the materials are in course of transit. And each of these coverages are built into our base form at $100,000. So that's for each. Soft cost. These are expenses incurred from a delay period due to a covered loss. So these are reasonable expenses that you incurred during a delay period. So let's talk about what the delay period is. That is the time between the scheduled date of completion and the actual date on which operations or the occupancy can begin. So that delay period is if there was a loss and you had your scheduled completion date and that did not take place because of the loss, the delay period is the time between when it should have started and when it actually does start. So these, once again, have to be necessary expenses so that you can start your operations originally planned, or that your client can start their operations. And these examples, just listed a few examples here, interest on money that was borrowed, realty taxes, legal fees, or any other similar costs that are over and above the costs that you normally would have incurred in course of construction. So soft costs are automatically included in our form at $100,000. So this is an automatic coverage, and it can be increased if needed, but with most of our clients, we feel that the $100,000 is a very sufficient limit. So what we've talked about up to this point are the automatic coverages that are included with those sublimits. We just went over a handful of them, but there are 16 automatic additional coverages. So let's just quickly go over some optional coverages that can be endorsed onto the policy. And after we go through these, if you have any questions or a specific client that you'd like to talk about, I am available for further discussion. So Green Builder endorsement is available through our program, and when you are a Green Builder, you do need to be certified by either LEED or the Green Globes. So that certification is required, and you must be certified as a Green Builder. And when the construction site is certified as a Green Builder, they have some unique expenses if there was a covered loss. So they have some expenses with recycling debris or getting recertified as a green builder. So these builders have, the project must be certified as a green building, and if there was a loss, this endorsement would be a great thing to have because it covers some of the unique exposures that they have. So the materials after the loss, instead of going to a landfill, would be sent to a recycling plant if the items can be recycled. So there's an additional cost to that. So this endorsement with these 4 coverages, and when selected, you would select the limits needed for that specific client, and maybe they only have 2 of the 4 needs, so you would just do 2 of the limits. So just something unique for any of those folks that are working with green builders. Contract change order is something that frequently gets requested on our submissions. It's a great endorsement to add, and what it does is it adds an additional percentage of the coverage limit to cover increases in the cost of construction. So if you're building a new house and you have your limit already set, but you think there could be some changes along the way while we're building this house where the coverage limit could be increased. Maybe the client is going to select some better materials or higher end materials, or they're going to do the kitchen up a little nicer than what they expected, and that could push the limit over the covered limit that's provided on the declarations page. So to make sure they have the appropriate coverage, they would have to give you a call, you would have to endorse the policy, they would have to pay the additional premium, and all of that has to take place to make sure that the coverage is in place, or at least the appropriate coverage is in place. The contract change order gives you just that little comfort that if anything changes during that course of construction that could increase the coverage limit, that is already in place. So as long as the client and the builder, they have the proof that they were requested change orders, and that's already in the file, as contract change order is listed on the policy, then they have the additional 10% or 20% or even 30% over the completed value that's on the declarations page. So it cuts down on the back and forth, and also it ensures that the client will have the best coverage, or I'm sorry, the appropriate coverage in place if there is a total loss. The completed value would be on the deck page plus this additional coverage limit. So it's a great thing to talk about with your custom home builders or with your clients that are building a home, that they have specific needs, or maybe they have specific items in mind that they want to make that house, you know, for themselves. So they may change their plans or thoughts throughout the process. So having this already on the policy just gives them that cushion for additional coverage if there was a total loss. So this is something that I get asked for quite a bit, and I would encourage you to take a few minutes to read the coverage form or take a look at it and talk to your clients about it. It's just a great thing to recommend during the discussions when you're working on those submissions. Delay in completion is another one that comes up quite a bit. So this is different than soft cost. So soft cost that we talked about that is automatically included in our form, those are those additional expenses that you might have from a delay period. Delay in completion is coverage for if there is a delay in that project being completed on time. This endorsement provides rental income. So if the project is not completed on time and they are out rent from their tenants that they expected to move in, and income coverage. So if the business cannot open as planned because of a covered loss, so if there was a delay period that caused the open date to be pushed back and the client was affected by this, where they could not collect their rental income or they could not open for business and start making income, this coverage would respond at that time. So there's 2 different ones. So it's delay in completion, either rental income or income coverage. And it's something that if you haven't received the coverage form on this, just to read over it to see for your commercial clients if this would be a fit for them, because if they are building a strip center where they expect to have tenants moving in on an expected date, or if they are a small business owner and they need to open on a certain date, that if there was a covered cause of loss and there was a delay period and that open date was pushed back, this would give them that coverage. So, you know, as those submissions come in, we can talk about the limits. There is a 30-day limit, an occurrence limit, and also a waiting period. But all three of those can be customized to be the best fit for the client. The next two we're going to run through rather quickly, just so that we can make sure that we have time to answer any questions that you have. But permission to occupy, that is an endorsement that's available, but I would strongly recommend that you read our coverage form. We are very generous with our occupancy clause for new construction and remodeling. So if the client asks for permission to occupy, the first thing I do is I just point out page 1 of our coverage form. It highlights what occupancy clause is part of the coverage form, and then if additional occupancy or time is needed, that is where this endorsement would come into play. So it's something that we do offer. We have to talk about what the occupancy is and what time frame and, you know, what the specific exposures are with the specific tenant, but we do have permission to occupy available if what is built into our form does not meet the need for the client. And then another coverage that we have included in our form, but if you need more coverage than that, we do have an endorsement. So testing is also available, but before you request testing, or when I see testing being asked for in a submission, the first thing I do is I pick up the phone and I talk to the user to say, what are they looking for? Because I don't want to charge them premium for something that may already be built into our form. So for testing, our base coverage form does include building startup testing. So that's testing of the sprinkler systems, the plumbing, the gas lines, you know, anything that is basic building startup is included in our form. If they need more than that, so maybe it's large machinery or equipment that's being installed, we do have testing startup for that. So just like to point out, with permission to occupy and testing, you know, we can definitely meet the need of your client, but we want to make sure that we're not charging them additional premium for something that may already be included in our form. So any questions on that we can definitely talk about. So before I open up the line for questions, just want to, you know, discuss how to submit business and, you know, just reiterate a few things that we've talked about. So we've talked about a lot of different things, and I know it was a lot of information for a Tuesday afternoon, so I appreciate you hanging in there with me. But just keep Victoria Schinnerer in mind for any builder's risk. So I would love to talk to you about new construction, remodeling. Let's talk about residential or commercial. So we should be able to meet the need that you have. Our online portal, I would recommend that you go on there and maybe just do a test quote, or just go in there to see what questions are being asked. If you'd like me to walk you through it, I will be happy to take just a few minutes and walk you through the online portal. We did review all the other websites out there and, you know, what the marketplace was asking and what questions, and our portal does have 15% fewer questions than the competition. So we do have the 16 built-in core coverages that we've talked about and several optional coverages, and we do have the option for direct bill or broker bill. So just wanted to share that with you before we opened up the line. So let's see what questions that we have. All right, so let's see. We are opening up the line just to see if we have any questions. While we're doing that, oh, hey.
Hi, the first question is, how do I get registered?
That's a great question. I am sharing, well, there's two ways to do that. You can go to our website, Schinnerer.com, and click on Builder's Risk, and then there's an option for the portal, and you can click on that, and there's an online registration form. And I'm also sharing my email address on the screen right now. So you can just email me, and we have a team here that would be happy to help you. So I can get you directed to the right person. So you can either go to the website, and there's an online form there, or email me or give me a call. Usually we can do it while we're on the phone together. If you've done business with Shinnerer before, it's just a few seconds of your time to get you set up. But I'm happy to help with that.
Okay, Donna, is this admitted in all states?
Another great question. Yes, it is admitted in all states. The only state that we cannot do business in right now is Hawaii, but all other states we are open as admitted, and the carrier is Navigators Insurance, and we have partnered with them to offer this great program and would love to work with you on it.
Can large projects be placed in the portal?
Yes, my recommendation is for everything to go through the portal. It is the way to get the quickest response time. It gets put in the pipeline, and it's on my radar, and we're working the portal submissions throughout the day. So any builder's risk started through the portal. Feel free to reach out to me as well, but the quickest way to get a response is through the online portal.
What are the billing options?
We do have direct bill or agency bill, and that is something that you can select as you are entering the business through the online portal. That's one of the questions, either direct or agent bill.
Donna, will the presentation be available?
Yes, we are recording this session, so we will have it posted probably by the end of the week. You can go online and take a look at it, or feel free to reach out to me and I can send it to you once it's available.
Thanks, Donna. There are no further questions at this time.
All right, thank you. Well, just in closing, I want to thank everyone for taking the time out of their day to go through this. I know it was a lot of information, but we just want to stress that we have a lot of flexibility, we have a capacity, and we want to work with you on your builder's risk. So any unique project that you're working on, or any easy project that you're working on, we would love to be your partner and just see how we can be the best fit for you and your client. So my number is posted on the website, so please feel free to give me a call at any time. And at this time, I will let you get back to work. And I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me today, and I hope you all have a great day. Thanks.